On Friday, OpenAI shipped what it calls the strongest AI model ever built. And then, in the same breath, it told almost everyone they can't use it yet, not because of a bug, not because of the price, because the government has to clear you first. The best AI on Earth just grew a velvet rope, and the bouncer works for Washington.
Context Window. Your weekly window into everything. AI security.
Welcome to Context Window, your weekly window into everything worth knowing in AI security. Quick thing before we start, full transparency. This podcast is AI generated, 2 AI voices, a script written by another AI agent, the whole thing. But every story, every take, every bit of here's what this actually means is curated and verified by Asaf Nakash. He builds AI security products at one of the world's largest security platforms. The robots do the talking, but a human who lives this stuff makes sure we're not hallucinating.
And if the robots ever start vetting which humans are allowed to hear this episode, you'll know we've gone full frontier model. Until then, anything sounds off, let Asaf know.
3 things this week. The big one, OpenAI built its most powerful model yet, and then handed the guest list to the US government. The counter move that's already showing up, free models you can download are catching the paid frontier faster than they ever have. And in the speed round, where the money is flowing, and a copy-paste mistake that put the same hole in the AI servers behind some of the biggest names in tech.
That last one is my favorite kind of bug. Nobody got clever, somebody just hit copy, then paste a few hundred times. Let's get into it.
Okay, top story. Friday, June 26th, OpenAI announces a new family of frontier models, 3 of them. Sol, the one it calls its strongest yet. Terra for everyday work, and Luna, the cheaper option. Normal product launch so far. And then comes the asterisk. At the US government's request, the first release goes only to a small group of vetted, trusted partners. Everyone else gets access later. In the coming weeks, supposedly...
Hold on. Vetted by whom exactly? And vetted for what? What does a trusted partner even mean here?
The wording matters here. It means OpenAI previewed the model to the government before launch and let it help decide who's in the first wave. Think of an early access list, except the people approving the list don't work at OpenAI. They work for the government. Like, that's the new part.
Okay, but be precise with me. 2 weeks ago, a rival, Anthropic, had 2 of its newest models pulled offline by a government order. That was a hard ban. Is this the same thing?
No, and that's the whole story. That's the distinction I need everyone to hold on to. Anthropic got an order, an export control directive that forced a shutdown, no choice involved. This is voluntary. Like earlier this month, the White House signed an executive order that asks AI labs to preview their most powerful models with the government and let it weigh in on who gets early access. Nobody forced OpenAI. It walked its flagship over to Washington and accepted a guest list.
See, my instinct is that voluntary is the less scary version. They opted in. They can opt out.
And I think it's the opposite, and here's why. A one-time emergency order is an incident. You can argue it was a special case, but a lab choosing on its own to submit its best model for government sign-off before launch, that's not an incident. That's a norm forming. The hard order made the headlines. The soft norm is the thing that actually changes the industry.
That's a fair reframe. The ban is the exception. The volunteering is the precedent.
Exactly. And what makes it land harder, OpenAI doesn't even like the arrangement. It publicly pushed back on its own restriction. It called this a short-term step and said, government pre-approval should not become the long-term default. It literally warned that gating keeps the best tools away from defenders, developers, and enterprises who need them.
Which is a genuinely strange thing to watch. The company that built the gate is standing next to it, arguing the gate shouldn't exist, and building it anyway.
Right? And for the security crowd specifically, one detail. OpenAI says Sol is its most capable cybersecurity model ever, and that it's better at helping defenders fix vulnerabilities than at carrying out attacks. That's OpenAI's own claim. So take it as a claim, but it tells you why a government suddenly cares who gets the keys.
Put it together. Frontier AI is sliding from a product you just buy into a capability somebody signs off on before it reaches you. That's a lot closer to how we regulate advanced chips or weapons than how software normally ships.
That's the takeaway. And if you build anything on top of these models, the question just got real. Which model is under my product, and could it be gated tomorrow? That used to be hypothetical. This week, it became an architecture review item. All right, let's shift gears.
I'm taking the first one because it's the other half of the same story. Wall off the frontier, and you don't freeze the field, you hand the challengers a market. The free downloadable models, the ones you don't rent, the ones you just grab and run on your own hardware, are catching the paid frontier faster than they ever have.
How close are we actually talking?
On a respected independent ranking, the leading open model now sits about 6 points behind the top paid ones. That's the smallest that gap has ever been. A year ago, it was roughly twice as wide. Now, important caveat, 6 points behind is not caught up. On the hardest problems, the paid models are still clearly ahead. This is narrowing, not matching.
And the part everyone in Washington is going to notice.
Several of the strongest open models come from outside the US, Chinese labs specifically. So the capability the gate is trying to fence in, a lot of it is already over the fence, and it didn't ask permission.
Which is a beautiful segue to where the money went this week. 2 raises, and they're both bets on this exact shift. Start with the why. When countries decide they can't depend on a model somebody else can switch off, they start wanting to own the whole thing.
Own it, not rent it.
Right? A startup called Dream raised $260 million at a $3 billion valuation to sell governments what it calls sovereign AI. Infrastructure a nation fully owns and controls instead of renting from a foreign provider.
A $3 billion valuation for AI you never have to ask anyone's permission to run. That's the market pricing the fear directly. And the founder is the former head of NSO Group, the spyware company, which is its own kind of signal about who sees this coming.
Second race, completely different gap, same readiness problem underneath. A startup called Nucor came out of stealth with $66 million to give AI agents real identities. Here's why that matters. The tools that decide who's allowed to do what inside a company were built for humans. Logins, roles, permissions, all designed around people. Then everyone deployed armies of autonomous agents that act on their own, and those tools just don't have a slot for them.
And that's not a theoretical gap. In a survey of 160 plus security leaders run by an agent security firm, most are rolling out agents, but only about a quarter have real controls built for them. 1 in 5 has already had a security incident caused by an agent. So Nucor is selling a fix for a hole companies have already started falling into.
Last one in the round, and it's a good one. Completely different flavor this week. Microsoft ran its Blue Hat IL conference over in Tel Aviv, one of the biggest security research gatherings anywhere outside the United States. Hundreds of researchers, and this year the program was wall-to-wall AI security.
And the headline talk revisited something with a great name, Shadow MQ. Walk me through it because this is the copy-paste bug from the open.
Picture this. One team writes an insecure way of passing data between programs that serve an AI model, a real flaw, the kind that lets an attacker take the machine over remotely. And then, instead of one team having that bug, everyone copies the code, almost word for word. So the exact same remote takeover hole ends up in the AI serving software at Meta, at NVIDIA, even at Microsoft, among others. One mistake, pasted across the whole ecosystem.
Now, honesty check. That research is not brand new. It was first disclosed late last year by an outside firm, Oligo Security. What's this week is the conference dissecting it for the broader community. We're not calling it breaking news.
Right. And the lesson is what makes it worth the airtime. The soft underbelly of AI isn't always the model. Sometimes it's the boring plumbing that serves the model. And nobody audited the plumbing because everybody assumed somebody else did.
AI security.
All right. Curator's Corner, the if you listen to nothing else moment. And Asaf's title for it this week is the title of the episode, The Level Playing Field is Ending. Here's the argument. For a few genuinely remarkable years, the best AI on Earth was a commodity. A student in Nairobi, a startup in Tel Aviv, and a Fortune 500 in New York could all rent the exact same frontier model. Same terms by the token. That flatness was easy to take for granted. It was also historically weird, and this week, it started to end.
Because when the strongest model ships first to a government-approved guest list and arrivals models can be switched off worldwide by one directive, AI stops behaving like software.
And starts behaving like a strategic asset, governed the way nations govern weapons and the chips that build them. The way he sees it, if the pattern holds, the strongest countries get privileged access to the strongest models.
Here comes the equal and opposite.
Exactly. Every force you put on a system pushes back. Wall off the frontier and you don't freeze the field. You fund its challengers. We just watched it happen. Open models 6 points off the frontier. Sovereign AI money raised the same week. The gate doesn't stop the water. It reroutes it.
But let me push on the framing because I think it's softer than the episode title. OpenAI says this is voluntary and temporary, and it's publicly against making it the norm. So is the era really over? Or is this a direction and we're calling it a destination?
That's fair. It's a trajectory, not a verdict. Nothing here is locked in. I'll give you that.
Good. Because the part that does land for me isn't the geopolitics. It's the security sting underneath it.
Say it.
The capability everyone's busy fencing off is already loose. An autonomous AI agent recently ran a complete intrusion, break-in, all the way to a stolen database in under an hour. No human driving.
Now, look at the board you're actually playing on. The frontier model is gated away from the compliant defender, the one with logins, invoices, and an audit trail who'd use it to protect a company. It is not gated away from the attacker who just downloads a free model that's nearly caught up and runs it on a machine nobody can reach. And barely a quarter of the company's running agents are ready for any of it.
Which means the gate goes up exactly where the good guys live and the bad guys walk around it.
That's the whole thing. So forget the disclaimers. Here's where the bug actually lives and what you do about it. Write down which model is under each product you ship and what breaks if it gets gated next month. And stop assuming restricted means unavailable to attackers, because the level playing field wasn't just fair. It was a defense. Yeah, and we're dismantling it exactly where we'll miss it most. That's context window for the week of June 29th. The frontier grew a guest list, the free models kept gaining, and somewhere a copy-paste bug is still serving models at 3 of the biggest names in tech.
The full edition is on LinkedIn. Every source, every number, and the action items we didn't have time for, read by security leaders who do this for a living. That's where the real show notes live.
See you next week.